Hi everybody, welcome back to another Van Other Collective video. So this is a group of like-minded caravanners, motorhomers and campervanners, of which I will put their logos around here. So this month's subject is on safety essentials. Now I've slightly adapted it, so I'm going to give you some safety essentials and then I'm going to give you some safety tips. Some of this you'll already know and you'll do all the time, some of it you might not be aware of. I'm going to keep it as quick as possible, so I'm going to do some sort of quick fire points from in and around the caravan. So the first two are fairly obvious, and I'd be very surprised if these are left out of any of the other videos in the collective. They are the smoke alarm and the carbon dioxide monitor. Those things will literally save your life. It is a requirement for caravans that are sold to be fitted with a smoke alarm, and a recommendation to have a carbon monoxide sensor monitor. Carbon monoxide is the silent killer. You're not going to know it's there unless you have an alarm or a monitor, and obviously we have a gas bottle in here that supplies the caravan, so it would be very stupid to not have one of those and make sure that it's the battery's working and that the unit itself is working. So the next things, which I'm sure are very obvious, is a fire extinguisher and a fire blanket. Now remember that not all fire extinguishers put all types of fires out, so be aware of the type of extinguisher you've got and what you would use it for. A fire blanket is another good way of smothering a fire and stopping it from spreading. My advice would be, before you tackle the fire yourself, would be to get everybody out of the caravan, to sound the alarm on the site and to have someone call 999. So they're the more obvious ones out the way. My next item would be tow mirrors. I see plenty of people who have big wide cars like we do, who think that they don't need tow mirrors and maybe don't like the look of them on their car. It really will help you to see, especially if you're driving on dual carriageways, motorways, and not only that, if you come up to a roundabout on a one-laned A road, you're still probably going to go into two lanes where traffic can go left, right, straight over, and it is a really good way of just checking your blind spot and making sure that you can see everything. So my next piece of advice is centered around this area. It's a very good idea to make a checklist and tick each thing off as you do it to make sure that you don't miss steps. The other important thing is not to let people distract you. So if Sara wants to come over and have a chat, or if the guy over there wants to come and ask about something, stop and start again completely from the beginning when they've left you, because otherwise, if people are distracting you, there's a chance you might just leave something out, and pretty much everything you do in this process is critical to towing the caravan safely. So the key with hitching up is exactly the same as towing. It requires patience and you need to take your time. Double check and double check again. I will always drive the caravan a couple of 100 yards after I think I'm completely finished, and I'll get out of the car, come around, just make sure that everything, handbrake's down, that this is locked, this is secure, we're on green, make sure this is connected, and make sure that the ATC light is green. Now, just while we're in this area, another item I just want to talk to you about is the breakaway cable. So it's always a good idea to keep a spare one in the caravan or car. They cost few pounds, that's all. It's a legal requirement. You can't legally tow your caravan without one, but I have seen people completely disconnect everything except this. They're set up on site, the handbrake's on, and they've gone to pull away with their car and they've snapped it. Once it's snapped, you can't use it, and of course legally you then can't move your caravan, and it's going to save you a trip to go and buy one. So for the sake of a few quid, carry a spare breakaway cable. Dead easy to fit underneath the caravan. The coil, the clip just goes onto the bit on the handbrake. So on to some tips now. Never leave cooking unattended in the caravan. My advice is also to make sure that pan handles are turned to the side and not hanging over the edge. Caravan spaces are notoriously tight, and if you're moving around the caravan, it would be easy to knock something over. You could knock a pan of boiling water over yourself, or worse, it could be chip fat or something like that that's not only going to burn you but could cause a fire. Whilst we're still on fires, make sure that you keep matches and lighters away from children. I know that sounds obvious, but in a caravan you don't have that much storage, and almost all of it is accessible. Even the high up cupboards in a caravan, children can get up onto the bench seats, the worktop, and can access that sort of stuff. And for me, I would not recommend using caravans. I would recommend using caravans actually. For me, I would recommend not using candles in the caravan. You might have blankets, you might have pillows, you might have curtains that overhang the windows. Also, just make sure that you don't leave a build-up of litter in the caravan, of rubbish. If you're anything like us, that goes on the kitchen worktop in the corner, and if you have anything that might be spitting fat out over the side, you don't want that landing on paper and starting a fire. Try to avoid blocking your air vents. Obviously they are there to create a good ventilation in your caravan, but if you have a gas leak and your carbon monoxide alarm is not working, those vents can help the gases to escape, and by blocking them, obviously the gas won't be able to do that. Make sure that you keep your caravan the regulated distance away from other caravans or motorhomes, and I'm just going to read you this statement from the Caravan and Motorhome Club website. To prevent the spread of fire on sites, caravans should be placed with at least 6 metres between caravan walls and at least 3 metres clear between associated equipment, for example cars and awnings. It is a good idea when you're travelling to a new area to find out where your nearest hospital or doctor's surgery is, and also a good idea to find out where your nearest defib is. I have to look that one up. Find out where your nearest defib is. Quite often they're on caravan sites. If we do a caravan walk, we'll always point them out, but sometimes they're in the local town. There is an app called Defib Finder, I believe. I'll link it in the description below. You can put your postcode in, or you can use the location services on your phone to find out where that might be. Now for this one, some people always say, oh, there's fuses to stop this one happening, but I wouldn't risk mine, Sara's or Reg's lives on a fuse. So I would always suggest that you plug your electric hookup cable firstly into your caravan and then into the service point, and then when you're packing up, remove it from the service point first and then from your caravan. So the reason that you do this is because if it's plugged into the service point, the service pole, you're carrying around a live cable effectively. Also, I find that if you do it in that same order each time, you are always starting at the caravan, you unroll your cable, you go to the service pole, you plug in. Then when you leave, you unplug from there and you wind it back up the same way, and next time you go away, the right end is the accessible end. Always uncoil your electric hookup cable. Far too often you see people just uncoil a little bit at each end and then keep the whole thing rolled up on the plastic thing. That will absolutely cause a fire. So we always make sure that we carry one of these. It is a first aid kit. It's something that Sara created herself just in a food tub. You don't need to go out and buy a really expensive one, but just go and purchase all the bits that you need and stick them in a box somewhere, leave them in your caravan. Hopefully you never need to use them. So my advice would be, however confident you are or good you think you're at driving, take a towing course. It's well worth it for what you will learn from there, and they will teach you not only how to tow but the rules of the road. So I actually have a question on speed limits. So when you're towing a caravan, you can do 30 and a 30, 40 and a 40, and 50 and a 50. When you go into a 60 mile an hour zone, you have to stay at 50. And when you're on a road that a car can do 70, you have to do 60. Now my question has always been, if you're on the motorway and you get the variable limits come up, so there's some form of congestion and it drops down to 60, with a caravan, am I then supposed to drop down to 50 because the new speed limit is 60, or because it's a variable speed limit on a road that is capable of doing 70, am I okay at staying at 60? I think it's really, really difficult because when you're doing 60 mile an hour, it's fine. You're round about the lorries and you're not really causing a problem. When it drops down to 60 and you drop down to 50, you are really slowing the traffic down in that lane. I can't find anyone that is able to give me the answer to that. So I know there'll be a lot of opinions, but if anyone actually knows the rules to that, then please drop it in the comments below. Also make sure that you are able to reverse the caravan. Even if you have motor movers and you think that's how you're going to get the caravan onto a pitch, you need to be able to reverse in case you have an issue out on the main roads. Get a regular service in line with your manufacturer's guidelines, which is almost always going to be every year. They will check things like your tyres, the tread, the pressure, your ATC, your brakes, everything that you're not really going to be able to check, and it just gives you that sense of comfort that everything's been checked over for the next year and you can go off and enjoy the caravan season. We are going to be doing a video of our caravan going into its service, so check that out in a few weeks' time. And if you haven't had a caravan service yet, you will be able to find out exactly what you should be able to expect from a reputable dealer. So that said, you are able to check the tyre pressure yourself, and you should regularly tighten up your wheel nuts with a torque wrench to whatever it says in your Caravan's handbook. These things do work themselves loose, so it is important that you check them from time to time. So this one for me is a big one. You see far too often people cramming their caravans full of stuff, probably stuff that they don't even need. Be really careful with the weight of your caravan. If your caravan's overweight and you were to get pulled over, you would be fined, and if you have an accident, there's a good chance your insurance would be void also. Just remember that the payload of a caravan is quite low anyway, and then of course when you have things like we do, we have the solar panel, our leisure battery, we have motor movers, anything like that, that eats into your payload. So my suggestion is to carry anything heavy in the car, and just regularly go through your cupboards and just see, you know, you're not going to want winter stuff in the summer and summer stuff in the winter, so try and keep the weight of your caravan down. Check your nose weight of your caravan as well, make sure that conforms. We've took this caravan to 2 separate weigh bridges, and at the very beginning, everything that I brought into the caravan I stood on the bathroom scales and weighed as well. If you are going to take big items like awnings in the caravan, then make sure that the weight is distributed over the axle. You don't want heavy items at the front or the back or at the sides. You want the caravan to be as steady as possible when towing. Now, caravan steps can get very slippy when it's wet outside, and of course they can get icy in the winter months, so it might be a good idea to bring your steps in overnight if you're expecting sub-zero temperatures. If you're able to, use fluorescent guy lines for awnings and tents. If you're not, then it's a good idea to put like a little light or a pot or something where you've pegged it in. Someone is going to trip over those lines. It's just what happens, I'm afraid. So my final tip is with the weather. Don't rush to get away on holiday if it's going to be windy or gusty. Delay your trip by a day. It will be worth it for the safety of you and your caravan. Gas bottles should be stored in outside lockers and not under the van. The locker should also have the correct gas signage on it. At the beginning of every trip you take with the caravan, make sure that your lights are working. So that is the end of this video. I'm going to put the logos of all the other channels up here. Please make sure that you head over and check their videos out. I'm sure they're going to give you some tips, maybe some things that we've not thought of. It was quite difficult in the beginning to come up with some ideas because I think a lot of it you just do naturally. But yeah, hopefully there's some new caravanners out there that have picked up some tips and some tricks to keep themselves safe. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.